Just because a company is hiring doesn't mean it's the right place for you, especially when you've already built years or even decades of experience. At this stage in your career, a bad move can cost more than just time. It can slow your momentum, affect your reputation, and burn out the progress that you have worked so hard to achieve. I get it. Sometimes you just need a job. But the goal isn't just any role. It's finding a position and an employer that respects your experience, your judgment, and the skills that you've worked so hard to earn in your career. In this video, we're going to look at how you can spot a low-grade employer early on so that you can protect your career, your energy, your long-term growth before you ever accept an offer or even waste time applying. Let's be honest, some employers out there are just low-grade and should be avoided if at all possible. We're talking about out of touch, toxic cultures, poor leadership, unclear expectations, and maybe those burnout factories just waiting for the next person. My name is Doug with Career IQ. I'm a recruiter, a business leader, a career coach, and I've helped thousands of people land jobs and build careers that they love. I specialize in helping people who have years of experience make smart moves in a complex job market. If you want more help leveling up your job search, I've got courses, coaching, and a free gift for you to get started. Check out the link in the description. So let's dig in. First, let's start with a definition. A low-grade employer isn't just a company with a bad reputation, though that can certainly be part of it. It's any organization that consistently undervalues its employees, lacks structure or leadership, has poor communication, burns people out, pays poorly, or maybe shows little interest in offering any clear pathway for development. If you've spent years building your career, you've likely seen some of these patterns before, and now it's even more important to recognize them early. If you've had a bad experience with a low-grade employer yourself, I know I have, drop a comment down below and tell me about your experience and what you've learned. What are some of the signs that you might be dealing with a low-grade employer? Well, high turnover, micromanagement, maybe vague job descriptions, no growth opportunities, self-absorbed leadership, or the classic we're a family when it feels more like a dysfunctional family without the love and really no healthy boundaries. Now, not every red flag means a company is bad, but the more you notice, the more it's a warning sign. Here are some of the things to be watching for in the application and the hiring process. Number one, vague job descriptions or job descriptions filled with buzzwords. If the job posting is all hype using words like rock star and ninja, fast pace, wear many hats, but doesn't really tell you anything specific about the responsibilities, that's a flag. It usually means that they either haven't thought the role through or they're being really unclear about the full scope. Number two, job descriptions that combine multiple roles or maybe appear to be 2 or 3 jobs in one. If the title is program manager, but they want you to mentor juniors or develop high-level strategy or do ambiguous or unrelated tasks, take note. This can indicate some kind of misaligned expectations or maybe a desire to pile on extra responsibilities on somebody that brings deep experience. Number three, while multiple rounds of interviews are not uncommon today, be careful with an unusually long hiring process with no clear updates in sight. If you're on your 4th round of interviews and still don't know pay, expectations, or maybe growth potential, that's a potential problem. Number four, assessments can certainly be a part of a candidate screening, depending upon which phase of the screening process that this takes place in, but make sure that it's applicable and appropriate. If an employer asks you to jump through an exorbitant amount of hoops, or worse yet, asks you to perform work for free, in other words, to solve a real-world problem that they're having as part of your screening, this is a huge red flag. Number five, if everyone you encounter during your interview process seems overworked or checked out, Pay attention. Watch how they act and how they talk. If you hear things like, we're just doing the best that we can with the limited resources we have, read between the lines. Number 6, if they have an overemphasis on the fact that they are a working family, this can really sound appealing, but it can be code for the lines between work life and home life get blurred. As an experienced worker, you may have run into situations like this where it means there's an expectation of loyalty without compensation in return. Number 7, consistent negative online reviews. Check sites like Glassdoor or Indeed. Every company gets a bad review now and then, but patterns, especially around leadership, culture, or burnout, are warning signs. And number 8, unclear answers to your questions during an interview. Ask questions like, what's the biggest challenge your team is facing right now? Or how does your team handle conflict? Or why did the last person leave this role? If they dodge, it might indicate either a lack of clarity or maybe a lack of leadership. Remember, you are interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. Be aware that a bad employment experience can not only be frustrating, but especially when you're a little bit later in your career, making the wrong choice can cost you more than a few months. It can affect your reputation, maybe your skill progression, and maybe your overall momentum. If you're already in a job that checks a number of the boxes for a low-grade employer, first, be very careful that you don't internalize the dysfunction of that environment. Next, consider updating your resume and maybe quietly looking for opportunities. Very important. In a tight job market as we are in right now, avoid job hopping just for the sake of a new environment. And if you do move, do your best to ensure that it's a good move with at least a relatively stable company. If possible, set some boundaries where you're at and learn to say no and maybe even push back a bit on unrealistic demands. And finally, use your experience to get clear on what a healthy environment looks like for your next role. Your career history as a seasoned worker gives you a perspective that many young workers may not have. Let me say this, there are good opportunities out there, places that respect your experience, compensate fairly, and want you to grow. The right employer will recognize the value that you bring from your career journey and not just try to fill a seat. The key is to do this, do your homework, ask thoughtful questions, watch for red flags, and tap into your years of experience to sense what is happening and trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. If you've found this helpful, hit that like button, share, subscribe, and once again, if you're looking for more direct help in your job search, check out the link to my website in the description. Until next time.